Yorkshire Pride on Yorkshire Radio.
Kev Till is the focus of this week's Yorkshire Pride. He's the strength and conditioning coach of the Castleford Tigers Academy, and he's also a personal trainer. Today he tells us what's been the difference between working with the pros at the club and now the youth players.
The first team players are professionals at the end of the day, and they know they've got to be ready physically to perform at Super League, and with the game advancing, they've got to push on each year themselves. With the kids, yeah, they're all pushing to get in that first team squad and play Super League, so they all work hard, but it's I don't think there's any difference in that way. It's all the players work hard. That's the culture of rugby league, and it's just maintaining that and making sure they're doing the right things away from the club as well.
Tell us a bit about your PhD then that you've just completed, and what you had to do for that, and how hard it was, I guess.
With my PhD it took 4.5 years in total, so I did 18 months full time while I was assisting at Cass, and then when I got the full-time job at Castleford, I did it part-time over the 3 years. So in that, it's a slightly different angle, looking at talent identification and development in junior rugby league players. So what factors are affecting players being selected onto the RFL's player performance pathway at the time.
So what do you look for then when you are looking for those kids to be picked up? What are the main attributes that you have to look at and look for in these kids? Because especially in the Leeds area and the Castleford area, it's a hotbed, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Castleford's a hotbed, and Leeds as well for the players. I think major things to look for are that the players have got basic core skills, but they've also got a good attitude to be able to learn and develop. Some of the issues that I looked at were not necessarily why are we picking players, but the RFL picked players that were necessarily sort of bigger and early maturing and older, and then what that affected was that the players that were later maturing and not as physically developed were missing out on selection opportunities. So it's not necessarily what are we looking for, it's maybe what are we missing, in a way. So we're trying to, the idea is that we need to try and get as many development opportunities for players as possible to try and develop as many players as we can. So
in some ways, your Rob Burrow, for instance, who might have been smaller and not as big as all the rest of the lads, may have missed out.
Yeah, I think Rob was an exception. He was probably picked up by Leeds when he was 12 or 13 years old. So he's, maybe an exception to that. But maybe Sam Tompkins, I know that he was released by Wigan in their scholarship, and then came back into the system a couple of years later. And look at the player he's developed into the last few years. So there's exceptions to the rule, but I think it's looking at the bigger picture and how players develop and looking at it on an individual basis as well.
Yorkshire Pride on Yorkshire Radio.